Jumping straight into the battles, we have Metagross into a Giratina. This is a horrible lead for us, Ghost doing some heavy super effective damage, so we make a quick safe swap into our Mamoswine. They counter swap into their Excadrill. We don't mind this swap. These avalanches will do some great damage against their ground type. If they get the shield, we're going to keep farming up. They'll throw the drill run. We respect the drill run with the shield. They throw the drill run, we throw the shield. We're going to keep farming. We get to another avalanche. This should either get a shield or do some heavy initial damage. Gets the shield, we're going to farm. Keep throwing these powdered snows. They get to another drill run. We could shield this, but I don't think we will. We tank that. We're in the red. We need to throw, but we overfarm. They get to another drill run. Excadrill is just too spammy. In comes the drill run. We keep farming. We're at 1.5 avalanches. In comes the avalanche. This should be knocking out the Excadrill. Knocks out the Excadrill. In comes their Giratina. We get to another avalanche. This will be doing some super effective against that dragon type. In comes the avalanche. Hits like a truck. Almost knocks out the Giratina completely. Swap into Reshiram. These dragon breaths should farm down the Giratina. In comes the Shadow Ball. Does just about half. We farm down with those dragon breaths. We're halfway to a Fusion Flare. We keep farming. We hit the Fusion Flare. Let's see what it can do against Dialga. Fusion Flare lands. Does about 75% damage, which is great for a neutral move. In comes Metagross, we farm down with the Bullet Punch, and in comes Giratina, farm down with the Bullet Punch. So good game to that trainer. Bad lead, but we managed to turn it around. In comes Metagross into a Dialga. This is a great lead. They make a quick switch into Mewtwo. This matchup is a bit shield dependent, so we're going to switch into Reshiram. We're going to be hitting them with the Dragon Breath, doing some heavy neutral damage. In comes the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does just over half damage. We're going to keep building up to a Fusion Flare. We'll respect the Psy Strike because it would KO us. In comes the Psy Strike. Keep firing with the Dragon Breaths. In comes Fusion Flare. Fusion Flare will be doing some heavy damage. Fusion Flare gets the shield. We're going to keep farming with those Dragon Breaths. Mewtwo is just too spammy with that Psy Strike. Psycho Cut combination. In comes the Psy Strike. Knocks us out. In comes Dialga. We should be able to farm down before Mewtwo reaches another Shadow Ball. We're heavy on energy. We're about 2 Meteor Mashes. We throw the first into the Giratina. This will be doing some heavy damage. Does some heavy damage. In comes another Meteor Mash. We're able to get to the Meteor Mash. In comes the second Meteor Mash. This should be doing some big damage. Gets the shield. Switch into Mamoswine. In comes hopefully an Ominous Wind bait. We call the Ominous Wind. No boost for them, they switch out into Dialga. All we need to do now is get to the high horsepower. This should be KOing the Dialga, being a steel type, and high horsepower just hits too hard. Comes in with a high horsepower, knocks out the Dialga. We're going to keep farming with the avalanche. We have a shield anyway, so it doesn't matter what move they get to. Throw on the avalanche, and that should be a good game. Avalanche lands, knocks out the Giratina. That avalanche high horsepower combination is too deadly with powdered snow. And Mamoswine just has such a high attack stat. It's winning so many stabs. It's winning so many matchups. It's doing so much heavy damage. It's such a deadly pick. Moving into the next match with Metagross versus Giratina. Obviously a bad lead here. That Shadow Claw doing some heavy damage, so we swap into Mamo. They switch into a Sylveon. We don't really mind this switch in. We'll be doing some heavy neutral damage, and we're much spammier than Sylveon, and we have a much higher stat product. So they'll be charming away. We'll just keep getting to these avalanches, either getting shields or doing damage. Mamoswine takes no prisoners. We keep farming up with the powdered snow. We could shield the Psyshock here. We let the Mamoswine go down to come in with the Metagross to farm down. These bullet punches will be doing super effective, and it doesn't really matter what Sylveon throws against Metagross. It's not going to be doing much. We're at the Meteor Mash. We're going to throw that into that beautiful shiny Giratina. Doesn't get a shield, but it gets some heavy damage. We switch into Reshiram, use that Dragon Breath to do some heavy damage. They'll throw the Shadow Ball, but it's a Dragon Pulse. Oh, that hit like a truck. So we almost farm down the Giratina. They switch out to Metagross. In comes Fusion Flare. They'll obviously shield this. Gets the shield. We'll keep farming up with the Dragon Breath. They'll be throwing some super effective Rock Slides. We have 2 shields, so we might as well start using them. In comes the first Rock Slide number 1. We're going to keep farming with Fusion Flare. Farm. We get to the Fusion Flare without having to expend that second shield. This will be knocking out the Melmetal, doing some super effective damage, almost knocking out the Melmetal. We're going to throw up the second shield because there's just enough health left on that Melmetal for a nice cheeky little farm down. We farm down, we have energy, we keep farming down, and we knock out the Giratina. Good game to that trainer. Moving on to the next match, we have our Metagross into Yveltal. So this is a terrible lead. Those Dark Pulses and Focus Blast hit so hard. So we switch into our Mamoswine. We're farming up. We're about 1.5 avalanches, and we're going to throw. We build to 2. We're about on max energy, so we throw the first avalanche. This does huge damage to the Zacian. We're going to keep farming. In comes the close combat. We're going to respect the close combat. It would just do too much damage to our ice typing. First close combat comes in. We're going to shield the second one. This may be a risky move going 2 shields down, but Mamoswine has so much damage, and the likelihood of some Pokemon coming in that Mamoswine can do damage against is high. So in comes the Sylveon. We're going to go through Avalanche number 1. This should either get a shield or do some huge damage. It does some huge damage. Keep farming. We make a quick switch into Metagross. Farm, farm, farm. In comes Yveltal. We're going to throw the Meteor Mash. Hopefully get a shield to do some heavy damage. In comes the Focus Blast, I assume. Yep, Focus Blast. And in comes Meteor Mash. This will be doing some heavy damage or getting a shield. Gets a shield. And we're going to keep farming. Will we get to 2 Meteor Mashes? Come on. Just not able to get to 2 Meteor Mashes, which is a big shame. But in comes Reshiram. That Dragon Breath is doing some great damage. Doesn't really matter what they throw, whether it be Dark Pulse or Focus Blast, we'll be able to body it. Reshiram's pretty much Rocky Balboa. We're able to get to the Fusion Flare just before they get to a Dark Pulse. Throwing the Fusion Flare, getting a shield. In comes another Dark Pulse. We don't have any shields left. So in comes a Dark Pulse, and we switch into Mamoswine. We're about 1.5 avalanches, so this should be knocking out the Sylveon. Knocks out the Sylveon, and in comes Yveltal. We're at an avalanche, but we just need to farm down. So a good game to that trainer. Mamoswine in that match really shined, being so spammy and being so reliable in so many matchups. Moving into the next one, we have Metagross into Giratina. So this is our 3rd Giratina match of this set. We're going to swap into Mamoswine. Mamoswine gets met with a Metagross, so this is a very bait-dependent matchup. We could land the high horsepower and completely knock it out, or we could throw a bait with the Avalanche. We're going to bait with the Avalanche, get a shield, and then we're going to farm all the way up to that high horsepower and hopefully sneak that through the shields. We'll shield this Meteor Mash, obviously, that'll take us out. That'll probably take out 3 of us. In comes the high horsepower, and this should do some massive damage to this Metagross if he doesn't suspect it. Doesn't suspect it, sneaks it through. Mamoswine stomps the Metagross. In comes the Giratina. Will we get to an avalanche? We get to an avalanche. Mamoswine is just too spammy and too reliable. It is my new favorite pick in the Master League. Gets a shield with that avalanche. That is big. Now we're at a big shield advantage. We're able to come in with the Reshiram. We're going to be spamming out these Dragon Breaths on the Giratina. Giratina throws an Ominous Wind, so I bet they regret not throwing the Shadow Ball. We'll keep farming. We want to save a shield for Metagross, so we're just going to absorb this Shadow Ball. Keep farming of the Dragon Breaths. Throw a Fusion Flare. The Fusion Flare's coming in. It's not very effective damage, but still should be enough to knock out the Giratina. In comes Yveltal. We'll keep doing Dragon Breath damage. I think we'll shield this. We don't really want to pit our Metagross against Yveltal. We should be able to get to another Fusion Flare, and Fusion Flare again, closing out the match, doing some huge damage and showing why Reshiram with Fusion Flare is to be feared in the Master League. Coming in with the Metagross, farming down, and that is a good game. So again, I think this team works great together. Metagross is able to absorb most leads. Mamoswine is such a good safe swap, and then Reshiram with that new Fusion Flare has been such a good closer. So in comes Kyurem, probably the best lead we could ask for. These Bullet Punches will be doing some great super effective damage, while their Dragon Breath will be doing nice, not very effective damage. We're expecting the Glaciate here. Should get our attack drop, but it doesn't really matter. Our attack's still high enough, and we're doing such... Oh, we'll make a quick switch into their counter Metagross. We're going to try and sneak through an Earthquake. They call it, so we're going to keep farming up. We got to call it here. We're going to call the Earthquake. It's on the Meteor Mash, so we wasted a shield there, but that's okay. We'll get to our own Earthquake. Hopefully they don't suspect it. Here comes the Earthquake, and bam! Yes, the Earthquake sneaks through, past the shield, and we're going to keep farming up. At this point, we do have some nice energy from trying to farm down with the Bullet Punches, so we will commit a shield. We'll completely farm down the Metagross. We have a Meteor Mash loaded. What's going to come in? It's the Kyurem again. In comes the Meteor Mash. This should be doing some super effective damage or getting the shield. Gets the shield. We're going to keep farming. They farm us down. So we'll come in with the Reshiram here. We'll do some super effective damage with the Dragon Breaths. I assume they'll throw a Glaciate to lower our attack. In comes the Glaciate. Then they come in with their own Reshiram, which is quite spicy. We come in with Mamoswine. If we had a shield here, this matchup would be very different, but unfortunately we don't have a shield. That Fusion Flare easily knocks out the Mamoswine. We come in, we try and reach a Draco Meteor, just not enough health, and we take a loss. So good game to that trainer. Showed why Reshiram is such a good closer from the opposite side. So good match. In comes a Melmetal. So we like this matchup. We just got to call that first superpower, and then this matchup is quite easy to read. So we throw the shield. Hopefully it's not a rock slide. It is the superpower. We call it, and then we're going to throw a Meteor Mash. They've lowered their defense, so this will be doing some decent damage to their Melmetal. Gets a shield, which is what we want, and then usually in this matchup I decide to just not shield anything. I just want to take these superpowers. I've called the first one, and then it's going to take him like 4 or something superpowers to take me out, so why would I shield it? I'm just going to keep taking these and then throwing Meteor Mashes as he lowers his attack and defense. So in comes Meteor Mash number 2, gets a second shield, which is very good for us. So now we're up a shield. We're not going to shield this, we're just going to let it go again. I think we hang on. His attack is so low. Yep, we hang on. We get to another Meteor Mash, and now he's so debuffed, this should be enough to take out the Melmetal. So yeah, we like this matchup. I'm always happy to see a Melmetal in the lead when running Metagross. In comes Zacian, and this is good for us too. We're able to get some chip damage with the Bullet Punch. In comes Mamoswine. All we need to do now is get to an Avalanche and shield the close combat. And we shield the close combat. In comes close combat. Shields the super effective damage. They throw in, I wasn't able to see, but hopefully Avalanche does super effective on neutral. They throw in their own Mamoswine, so it does some nice neutral damage. We're going to keep farming, switch into Reshiram. We'll be able to absorb this neutral Avalanche with our nice fire typing, and then we should be able to farm down. Mamoswine can be on the squishier side, so these Dragon Riffs are doing some heavy damage. We're almost at a Fusion Flare. In comes Zacian. Fusion Flare closing the match yet again, showing why Reshiram with Fusion Flare is such a powerful closer in the Master League. So good game to that trainer. I really enjoyed that match. I've been enjoying seeing these Zacians in these battles. I think any Pokemon on my team can handle Zacian quite well. Some a little energy dependent, but that's okay. In comes another Zacian, that's what I'm talking about. We're using these Bullet Punches to do super effective damage. They're throwing the Snarls, building up to 2 close combats. We're going to throw the first Meteor Mash. This should be getting the shield. I doubt they'll just let their Zacian go without a fight. Yep, gets the shield. We'll keep farming. They're in the yellow. In comes the first close combat. We can either, yep, we let it go. Boom. And then we're going to throw the second one. We'll shield this one. This will lower their attack so far that we can farm down. We proceed to farm down, and then we have a Meteor Mash loaded for the next Pokemon, or just shy of an Earthquake. It's a Yveltal. We'll throw this Meteor Mash, we'll do some heavy neutral damage to the Yveltal, or get a shield. We get the shield, that's brilliant. We keep farming, can we get to 2? We get to 2, that is brilliant. This will either get a shield, or almost knock out the Yveltal, eliminating probably the biggest threat to Metagross. Keep farming. Alright, they're in the yellow. We'll come in with a Mamoswine, we'll farm down with the Powdered Snow. We'll throw up a shield to respect this Dark Pulse, or more importantly, Focus Blast. It's the Focus Blast, we call it. We keep farming. In comes Mewtwo. We're going to throw the high horsepower. We're going to throw Mewtwo. This Mamoswine's so powerful. I should nickname it Bugatti Veyron because it's got about 1,000 horsepower. In comes Reshiram. We're using those Dragon Breaths. They'll be throwing a Psy Strike, I assume, the most energy efficient move. And we'll keep farming. They unfortunately get to 2 Psy Strikes, but we don't really mind this, because we can just come with Mamoswine, we can farm down, and then we'll have a move ready. So in comes your Voltool, we'll farm down, and we would have got to an Avalanche anyway, so good game to that trainer. Mamoswine again showing why it can also be such a powerful closer and safe switch on any team with that Powdered Snow, Avalanche, and High Horsepower triple combo. It is just too powerful, too reliable. In comes Metagross, into a Dialga. So we like this matchup. Again, as I mentioned before, it's a little bait dependent. We want to sneak that Earthquake through, or we want to get a shield with the Meteor Mash, obviously. So we're going to farm to the Meteor Mash. Just over 1 Meteor Mash. We hopefully get the shield here. 9 times out of 10 I get the shield. This trainer is the 10th. So they don't shield, unfortunately, but that's okay. we're going to shield up the Draco Meteor, hopefully. They go straight for the Draco Meteor. We shield that up. This makes this matchup much safer. They lower their attack by 2 stages. In comes the Meteor Mash. Hopefully this will be doing some nice damage to their shield, and we're going to be able to farm down. So I do like to see a Dialga versing my Metagross. The main lanes I like to see are Zacian, Melmetal, Dialga, Togekiss. Those are like the best matchups I find with Metagross. In these sets we have been seeing a lot of Giratinas and Yveltals, but that gives me a good chance to showcase why this team is so powerful at turning around those bad matchups. So Metagross into Zacian, we've built up to almost a Meteor Mash. We make a quick switch into Mamoswine. In comes the close combat, but we should be able to absorb it just low into the red, showing that level 50 bulk. In comes the Avalanche. This should be knocking out the Zacian, sending the dog, into the Oblivion. In comes Dialga, farms down the Mamoswine, but we have a full health Reshiram, so we just farm down the Dialga. In comes Mewtwo. It doesn't matter what move they throw, they can't knock us out. We shield this, we'll shield that Side Strike damage. We get to the Fusion Flare, and again, Reshiram showing why it's such a powerful closer in this Master League meta, and why I'm having so much fun with it. It is simply brilliant. Farm down the Mewtwo. Good game to that trainer. Another great match. Thank you very much. So, another win, and Metagross, Mamoswine and Reshiram getting their time to shine. Jumping into the next match, we have Metagross into a Dragonite. So obviously this is another good lead. We have to shield the superpower correctly, but apart from that, those Dragon Claws and Dragon Breaths really aren't cutting the mustard. They're not doing that much damage. Dragonite does have some fair dinkum power behind it with that superpower, but as long as we call it, we're fine. We'll throw this Meteor Mash. Obviously we don't want to throw an Earthquake. They switch into an Excadrill without me realizing, but that's okay. We'll switch into Mamoswine. We actually quite like this matchup of Mamoswine against Excadrill. We getting to these Avalanche at a pace of knots. We throw the Avalanche. We could shield this, but we decide not to, saving a shield for later. In comes the Rock Slide, only does about half damage. We'll keep farming. We should throw a shield up here because we have such an energy advantage. In comes another Drill Run. We'll farm the Excadrill all the way down now and have a high horsepower loaded or an Avalanche. In comes the Melmetal. I wish I should have just thrown the high horsepower, but unfortunately I try and bait with the Avalanche, so they call it. Good call to this trainer. We get to another Avalanche before they can knock us out with Superpower or a Rock Slide at this point. They're obviously not going to shield that. We switch into Melmetal, and we don't have any shields to block out this first Superpower, but even if we can't block that first Superpower, Metagross is so bulky, and they throw a Flash Cannon, so very spicy, probably hunting for those Zacians. But we're going to throw a Meteor Mash straight into the Dragonite, keep farming. They should get to a Dragon Claw here. There's no need for them to throw the Superpower. Metagross will go down, and then we should switch into our Mamoswine to do that 4 times effective damage with the Powdered Snow. Dragonite does not like the snow, clearly. He will not be visiting Norway anytime soon. We keep powdering down. They'll get to a Dragon Claw here, but honestly, they should have just farmed down. They win CMP, and they were... they pretty much knocked me out. Reshiram comes in, bombs down the Dragonite. In comes Melmetal. We don't really need to shield anything here. So Melmetal is a very tricky situation for Reshiram. If it's in the 2 shields, obviously they're much spammier than us, and all they need to do is keep spamming Rock Slides. But if Reshiram does have a shield advantage and does have a health advantage, it can be quite a good matchup. I'm quite not brave enough to run Fire Fang Reshiram yet, but maybe one day I'll try and run that Fire Fang for you guys and see how it works out. Thank you all for watching, it means the world to me. This has been my first Pokemon Go YouTube video, and there will be lots more to come. Please like and subscribe, and tune in for more PvP and Pokemon Go content. Come on, what I gotta do? Give you these puppy dog eyes?